Welcome to Lair of the Alchemist, and on today's episode, ranking the big four Florida death metal. I've admitted on this channel that I'm not that really big of a fan of death metal, but I do like some death metal. I made a video on death metal bands that I like, even though most people got angry at me claiming that most of the bands I picked weren't even death metal. But I think I'm pretty safe here in saying that these bands are death metal. So the bands that I picked now, there is no official big four of Florida death metal. But these are the bands that I would say represent that. Have them here in alphabetical order: Death, Deicide, Morbid Angel, and Obituary. Morbid Angel, Obituary, Deicide from Tampa, where I live, and Death, of course, is from Orlando. Some people might say, what about Cannibal Corpse? Well, Cannibal Corpse, a lot of people feel like they didn't come to... They're from Buffalo. They recorded their first couple records there, and then eventually they did move to Tampa, Florida. But I'm going with bands that were originally from here, started their careers, and I think most people would agree that these are the biggest bands that come out of the Florida, Tampa, Orlando death metal scene. Okay, so number four for me, and I do like all these bands. It's not that I don't like any of these bands, but I'm going to put Obituary at number four. And I put them here. What I like about all these bands is all these bands are kind of different in a lot of ways. You're sort of getting different flavors of death metal from all these bands. Obituary is the more slower, doomy, so you think that I would like that because I'm a big doom metal fan, and I do like that. That is what I like about Obituary. But for me, it's maybe what knocks it down a little bit is the vocals. He has this kind of shouty, he's screaming, but it's sort of nonsensical words a lot of times. He's not really, and he's admitted this. He's just kind of making things up. So to me, that's a little bit knocks him down on my list. But again, I do really like this slower, heavy, or the more extreme stuff I like. I don't like stuff that's just flat out blasting all the time. So Obituary has that kind of grinding, slow, doomy thing that they do, and I've seen them a bunch of times. They play a lot in the Tampa area, so I've seen them a bunch of times, and they always sound great live. They tour like crazy, and they just sound, those heavy riffs work really, really well live. It's just for me, the vocals, like kind of that not necessarily having lyrics all the time, knocks them down to number four for me. All right, number three is going to be Deicide. And what I like about Deicide, I like the early Deicide stuff, like this, the first like three or four records. Then they sort of lost me, but I love Glenn Benton's vocals on the early stuff. He has those crazy high screams, yet those intense, really big guttural lows. This particular record is probably my favorite. What I've always liked about Deicide is that their songs, they don't have any super long songs, at least not that I'm aware of, at least not from this era. And they tend to be structured pretty like kind of straightforward, and they're sort of catchy in some ways, as catchy as death metal can be. The riffs are very catchy, but also in the vocals, there's kind of hooks in the vocals. And Steve, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name right, Ashim, he's an amazing drummer. And so I appreciate Deicide for their stuff is a little bit more straightforward. You get this riff that they'll repeat enough for it to sort of sink into your ear. They're not like just randomly changing riffs all over the place. So it's sort of easy to wrap your ear around them, although it's still very intense and there's a lot going on. So Deicide, number three for me. All right. Number three is going to be Morbid Angel. Now, Morbid Angel is sort of the opposite of Deicide, where they throw a lot of riffs at you, and there's a lot of stuff coming at you. But I like that. I think it works for them because they do it in a way that's still is catchy and memorable. Uh, Trey Aztegoth, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. He's a great guitar player. Probably one of my favorites out of the death metal scene. I think his soloing style is really unique and kind of the scales and his note choices and everything. And he has a technique, but it's really for me about sort of the weird note choices that he does. And their riffs are very almost atonal and weird. There's this weird twisted way that he puts the riffs together. David Vincent is one of my favorite death metal vocalists. You can understand what he's singing, yet he still has that super intense, extreme vocal style. So the early Morbid Angel is the stuff that I like the best, and I'm actually going to be doing a ranking of the David Vincent Morbid Angel records at some point in the near future. But yeah, they come in at number 2 for me just for the guitar playing and musicianship. Pete Sandoval, his drumming is completely insane. So for sort of for the opposite reason of Deicide, I appreciate the straightforwardness of Deicide. Here with Morbid Angel, I appreciate just the craziness and the over-the-top nature. All right, number 1, it's got to be for me, Death from Orlando. Chuck Schuldiner is a genius, in my opinion. His riffs are amazing. The way the band evolved over the years from this album to The Sound of Perseverance is incredible. Each album is kind of different and evolving and pushing the boundaries. Chuck was sort of at the forefront of this, really taking death metal to new places. Musicianship, raising the level of musicianship. His guitar playing is fantastic. His riff writing is some of the best out there. My favorite death metal riff writer, definitely for sure, is Chuck. His lead playing is very interesting. I like his voice too. His voice sort of changes and evolves over the records, but you can understand what he's saying. I like the fact that his lyrics stray away. He doesn't do the typical blood and gore type lyrics. They're way more thought-provoking, which I really dig. He always had amazing musicians in his band. So each album kind of has its own feel, not only from the stylistic changes that he would implement as they went on, but also from the different musicians that he used. Always added a lot to the sound of each record and made each record sound kind of individual and have its own identity. So for me, it's got to be Death. Chuck is just a guy that was a step or two ahead of everybody else, really pushing what death metal could be, changing your perceptions of death metal. I love all the death records for different reasons. I don't know if I've done a ranking of the death albums. I think that I did. I think I ranked the death albums. I'll try to leave all the various videos that I've done related to these bands, which isn't many, but I know I've done some death videos, so I'll put them in the comments down below. But yeah, for me, this is an easy pick here. I think Chuck is a genius, and his stuff is very catchy too. Even as his stuff got more progressive, there's this element of melodicism in some ways, even though the vocals are very harsh and all the riffs are very aggressive. There's still a hooky nature to to all of the death music, in my opinion. So easy pick for me at number 1. Okay, how would you rank the big four of Florida death metal? What do you think of my picks? Let me know in the comments down below. Till we see you again, make sure you stay heavy, stay metal.